There you go.
Yeah, good
Hello,
morning, everyone.
good morning. Good morning. We have another very special guest. We actually have a team of amazing guests here from Lumberton ISD for today's Disruptive Public Education Conference. We're sharing innovative ideas and just exciting things happening in public education. We have our co-host Corinne French with us. And by the way, Corinne French and myself, we're the co-host of the Educational Leadership Podcast. So if you're looking for some great content, with interviews from superintendents around this great state of Texas and board members, reach out or listen to our podcast, Educational Leadership Podcast, on Spotify or some of the other major platforms. We also want to give a shout out to our sponsors before we start today. Wise Pies Media, who is basically affiliated with the podcast and promoting content. And then also Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's given hundreds of millions of dollars in funding to schools around the great state of Texas. Roughly 20% of the districts in Texas are getting funding from Ideal Impact right now. So if your district needs unrestricted funds for higher teacher salaries or whatever it may be, reach out to Ideal Impact. Or if you want, just put a note in the chat feature and we'll get you connected to our sponsor. With that being said, we're going to hand this off to our speakers today from Lumberton ISD. Superintendent Tipton, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, you bet. Listen, we are so proud to be here. Thank you guys. And I will give you a quick plug for Ideal Impact. We, after we were on the podcast a few months ago, we've had them out. They're working with our district. It was super simple, super easy, going to save us a ton of money. So just very excited about that. So anybody wants to know more about that, I know you didn't ask Gary and Kareem, but I'll tell you, they were great to work with. So great people. Yeah, listen, thanks for inviting us here today. This is a subject that is extremely passionate to me personally, and I know it is. It's on the top of mind of all the school educators across the state of Texas and the United States, is school safety. We have created an unbelievable program here in Lumberton that we're extremely proud of, and we are super happy to share. I'm going to share my screen, if you don't mind. And here it is. And we will get started with our presentation. So, we decided that we needed something really to hang our hat on. So in Lumberton ISD, we say education's our business, but safety is our priority. And it really is. Parents, obviously they want their kids to learn, but they also want them to come home in the same way that they came to school, safe and secure and happy. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do with our kids. So another thing that real quick, the agenda today, just to let you know how it's going to go. It's going to be fast and furious, guys. I could spend, myself and my team, we could spend probably a full day on any of these topics. We're just going to skim through them, but we're going to ensure you that we are here to help you. Everything that we have, we will give away for free. We will talk to any district. We can help you in any way we can. We just want to help and we want to keep kids safe. So we'll do some quick introductions. I want to tell you just real quick about Lumberton in general. I have a safety message from the superintendent that I want to deliver to you. We're going to hit really our two major safety categories, which is the physical and the behavioral measures that we've instituted. I'm going to give a quick pitch for cybersecurity if you don't already have a good program. I can tell you how important it is from experience. And then we'll save as much time at the end for Q&A. And Gary, if anybody has any questions or Corinne along the way, then please feel free to let us know and we'll answer those questions.
Sounds wonderful.
So who I have with me, I brought a team today. You see myself there at the top. Dr. Igor Gusakov is our assistant superintendent. He is over not only teaching and learning and student services, but he's also over safety security. We have Mr. Tim Lane, director of safety and security. Unbelievably distinguished career in Arizona, 40 years in law enforcement. It's just a wealth of knowledge and information. And then Chris Spears is one of our law enforcement teachers, a safety consultant. He's also over our Guardian program in the district. We do have a very active Guardian program. So each of us are going to take a little bit here to talk about safety and security with you today. Just a little bit about Lumberton. We have 4,200 students, more or less. If you don't know where we are, we're in Southeast Texas. We're just north of Beaumont and about an hour and 20 minutes directly east of Houston. We're in Hardin County, Texas. We are the largest employer in the county. And like a lot of maybe one high school towns, the school is absolutely the heart of our community. It's the heartbeat of the community. We live in a very, very conservative area of the state. We do have a deep-seated gun culture in Southeast Texas and in Hardin County, which we believe actually plays to our favor, which you'll learn here a little bit later. And we are 85% white. And if you follow school shootings and statistics, you know that those bottom three categories, conservatism and gun culture and Anglo population, those are all very, very common with places that have school shootings. And so, you know, we have to keep all those things in mind each time we go to work every day. And so before I start, I want, for all the superintendents that are listening today, I need to give you some information from the very start. Because if this is not in place, then your program is not going to be as successful as it should be. If your superintendent, your board, and your other top leaders, if you guys are not completely on board with safety and security, your program is not going to be as successful as it needs to be. I will tell you, I'm not afraid to say it. I'm a full participant in our Guardian program, and which means that I go through every single thing that every other Guardian goes through. I'm involved in all the training. I'm involved in all the education, all the courses, the classes, the certifications. I'm involved in everything from top to bottom. And I believe that that has been one of the keys to our success. And the way that I look at it is, I think I wrote it on the slide, I'm never going to do anything that I wouldn't ask any of my other folks to do. So when we're training and we're getting shot with simunition rounds, and you know, people are getting blisters on their fingers and on their backs and on their sides, I'm getting the same blisters. I'm getting shot the same way others are in that training. I just think it's critically important, and it's been a huge step for us in our progress so far. So just a note for the superintendents there. And so we're gonna, like I said before, we could spend literally 8 hours on every single bullet point that you see here, but we've divided our program into physical measures and behavioral measures, and we've picked out a couple or three of the most important ones in each category to go over with you today. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. G. And Dr. G, I'm going to let you talk about some of our physical security measures.
All right. Thank you guys for having us. Can you hear me well? All right. So when we started working on the mandates from TEA and trying to organize our safety and security program about a year ago, we decided that the best way to organize it based on what we had in place and what we were putting in place was to sort it by physical measures, what we have in place, as far as along as well as the behavioral measures. So what do we do people-wise? What systems do we have in place? So like Dr. Tipton said, and each one of these lines on the physical security right now that you see on the screen, we probably can make an hour presentation and talk about, you know, the things that we did and what goes into it. So we broke the physical security down to the people, or you want to say the programs. So for example, the guardians and the security guards that we have, the leadership buy-in from assistant superintendent, superintendent, director. We actually hired a security director over a year ago. We were fortunate to get Tim on board, and I think a lot of districts of our size followed the suit, and they had to do that too because of all the measures that had to be implemented by the school district. It could not be a side gig for anybody anymore. So that's as far as people and training. Technology, of course, we have some standard things like cameras and AI phones and door scanners. What we did increase, and we'll talk more about it, was radio communication. So we purchased actually 800 band radios that is allowing us to communicate with across the district with very strong signal. We can talk to each other. We can talk to law enforcement, to Hardin County dispatch. That allows us to create some very reliable communication channels in case something were to happen. Something did happen. We had a big a storm that was almost a tornado type of weather event, and our radios helped us stay connected very well. So and also another huge thing that we will talk a little bit about is the Raptor alert, which everyone is familiar with, the Raptor check-in system for visitors. A Raptor alert app is a communication app, a piece of software that allows us to activate the student center response protocol. So lockdown, shelter, evacuation, and literally every single employee in the district has the ability to send that alert to the campus that they are assigned to. So if it's a teacher or a paraprofessional, cafeteria workers, if they see something going on, they can go in that app and activate the alert, and that will be received by administration, every employee on that campus, as well as all the emergency services. So our police we've trained our police and our first responders. They all have the app, and they receive the notification even before Hardin County dispatch gets the call. So we had a false alarm event the other day, and our first responders were on the scene even before dispatch was able to ask them to be there. So that's a huge win for us. Also, as far as the mechanical side of things and the vulnerability aspects, so of course we had to comply with TEA requirements as far as having to do door sweeps. So we automated it as far as we have a ongoing Google form that is available on each administrator's phone, and they are able to very easily access that form and do the door sweeps. That automatically documents for us, so it's not a time-consuming event. At first, we were trying to do spreadsheets, but it definitely was more time-consuming. So it was a big win for us there. We are putting up fences and gates right now, and it's part of our bond project. So we were lucky to kind of coincided. Our bond coincided with all these requirements. But that's going up, and that's increasing our security. We are not all our campuses had security vestibules, so that's something that we are also adding this year. So all our campuses now are 100% compliant with that. Door numbering, hallway marking. So that's we will dive deeper into that, but we came up with a system. Actually, Mr. Lane brought it to us from his experience in law enforcement, and we were able to implement a lot of those ideas here in our district. So, and all the threat assessment members and team members and all the safety and security team members have gone through the ICS training, multiple levels, 100, 700, 800. So we speak the same language, and we were able to communicate more efficiently because we have gone through all that official training. And as far as the behavioral measures, we are implementing the DESA. It's the social skills program from pre-K through 12th grade. We have DESA program has 8 pillars that good decision making, taking care of others, and so on. So it allows us to again, speak the same language and send the same message from grade level to grade level. That's age appropriate and grade appropriate. So that's on the preventative side. We have hired 2 crisis counselors that help, and they stay very busy working with our threat assessment teams on each campus. That allows our regular grade level counselors take care of their regular duties, and the crisis counselors happen to focus on these crisis situations. We have a very robust threat assessment training, and what makes it robust is we don't just put it in place at the beginning of the year and then just let it flow. We have regular meetings. We refine our processes, systems, forms, making sure that we calibrate and stay consistent from campus to campus, and so we don't create additional work for ourselves, but also don't miss anything. We have multiple ways of letting our students and our parents and our staff have multiple ways for us to receive information about anything that might be suspicious. So we have the traditional anonymous alerts. We have set up the Crime Stalker program here in the past year. We also have several other measures that on the website. If you go on the website, you can report any suspicious activities, either ongoing or something that specific that happened that can be easily communicated to Mr. Lane and Dr. Tipton, our communications director, and we can take care of it very quickly. We are constantly training our staff on SRP. That's an ongoing process that that takes a lot of work, but it's very important, and every time we do a drill, we go over the expectations. Again, the Raptor Alert app helps us with some consistency. Law enforcement relationships, especially for the districts our size that don't have their own law enforcement program, is huge. And Chris will talk a little bit more about it, but especially since Mr. Lane came in, we have been able to build great relationships with not only the city police, but Hardin County Sheriff's Department, and we do trainings together. We know each other by name, and we train them, they train us. So it's a very cordial relationship that pays off in many ways. And we have, like I said, we have on our website Keep Radar Safe web page where we have all our safety and security information for the public to know, as far as what's allowed to know. Of course, nothing confidential. And also we created our own internal safety connections Google website just to keep us to help us keep organized, stay organized. So I'll talk about it in just a second after a couple of slides. Dr. Tipton.
Okay, so yeah, one thing that we want to share with you, and again, this is something that we developed on our own last year when we began stacking all of these safety and security measures. We honestly, it became a little overwhelming for us. So we developed what we call the school safety scorecard, and we keep this scorecard. It's a spreadsheet, so it actually does all the calculations for you. On the left, you can see the physical measures that we have in place. On the right of the gray bar, you can see the behavioral measures. There's a scale score that we've attached to it. And then on any given day, a daily
Tom,
basis. And then on any,
y'all coming over and clean?
We are. We're just leaving clean right now. So
Okay.
a few minutes.
I
all right, there we go. The beauty of the Zoom meeting. So so we can assign a score to any of these behaviors, these measures on a given day. Let me give you an example. Last year, whenever we went into our STAR testing, suddenly on the day before the test, the question came out: how can we function in and out without disturbing our children during the test if we have to rattle the keys and jiggle the door handle every time that an administrator needs to go in the room. So on that day, we made a decision that for the testing rooms, that we were going to keep the classroom doors unlocked for the testing. So if you'll notice on the physical measures at the bottom, we actually went down there and created a scorecard for that day, and we took away the locked doors out of our score, and it decreased our physical measure score, but yet we still were in the green. Now, we knew this was going to happen, so we just made sure that our administrators were more aware. So this safety scorecard on any given day just lets us know where we are. If we have cameras that go out on a certain day, we would reduce our score. If we have fences or gates that are malfunctioning or broken on a day, we would reduce our score. And again, it lets our admins, myself, our safety team know, do we need to have extra coverage at a campus? So this is just an innovative way that we kind of keep up on a day-to-day basis where we are with our safety security program. And again, we can share this, easily share this with anybody, any other superintendent or safety director that wants to implement this. And the beauty of it is, if you have a physical or a behavioral measure that we don't have in our district, or if we ever add one, all you have to do is add a column, add the score, and your total score calculates for you. All you have to do is change your total score from and your green, yellow, and red to make it fit your district. So it's very easy to make it fit your district. All right, Chris.
All right, good morning. I'm going to briefly touch on the people aspect side of this. As you see on the slide, we have a guardian program here in the district, and it started back in 2017. As of right now, we have 23 members, and that covers all 5 of our campuses throughout the district. We have an active roster that we maintain, and so part of our communication piece with our law enforcement is that we make sure they know who our guardians are, and we provide this roster as the list updates, but it also goes into the training aspect of it as well, but we'll touch on that in a little bit. Our guardians have been through what's called alert training. So for those of you out there that aren't familiar with that acronym, that is the active law enforcement response to an active shooting. Now this is something new to the education world, and this summer we were able to put all 23 of our guardians through it. And in addition to that, we're currently putting them through the CRAZE program as well, which is kind of a spinoff to that training, and it's the civilian response to an active shooter event. And throughout those trainings, our guardians have learned a good bit of useful training, and it deals anywhere from responding to the threat to after the fact dealing with the medical aspect of it. In addition to that, we have annual firearms trainings, just like our local law enforcement and the state law enforcement do. We have our quarterly trainings with local law enforcement, and like I said, we've ensured that all of our members are alert certified. And in addition to that, we have our 2 on-duty SROs that are here every day, and there's a possibility that we're going to add a 3rd. And all of our SROs are certified peace officers, and they're also our school resource officers certified. And because of our great relationship with our local PD and our local SO, we ensure that they are actively training with us.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. And just to follow up on what Chris said, Chris is one of our trainers in the alert program, and coming from a state police background, it was incredible for me to see our staff training alongside law enforcement. That's a best practice. I would like to see more states, more districts do that throughout the country, because it really is a best practice and something that we feel very strongly about. The physical, I'm going to cover both the physical part of this and technology. I want to answer a question we had in the chat on our radios. I think the superintendent and Dr. G both have alluded to the exceptional relationship we have with law enforcement. We get together once a month and have breakfast with the chiefs. This was really kind of an overwhelming journey for me, and so I had to take it in small pieces. And one of those was the response and our ability to communicate in any hazard and an all hazard environment. And we just needed to improve our capability with our radios. So with the leadership here in Lumberton, both from the district under Dr. Tipton and Dr. G and the rest of the team, and then with our law enforcement, we were able to purchase the Motorola dual band radios, which allows us the UHF and allows us the 800 capability. We have our own frequencies. The sheriff and the judge and the chief all were in harmony as far as getting us our own frequencies. So now we can reach out to local law enforcement in any event, and they can certainly reach out to us. And we're looking to purchase more. Our initial purchase was 7 or 8 radios, and we're looking to put more out in the field. They are quite expensive, and so it takes some planning and some dollars to support that. But we're working hard towards that. Dr. G already mentioned the Raptor Alert. The one thing I will mention is we've had 2 or 3 real world events where the Raptor Alert beat the 911 call by 80 seconds. So, looking at the incident timeline, if you were trying to reduce the incident timeline, getting resources on our campus, 80 seconds is like a year. And so to be able to get those resources on our campuses was huge. The ability to see, have our eyes on with our cameras. We have our technology director has done a great job in making sure that we have our coverage on our cameras, and we're really working close and getting close to putting up fences around our campus. Our gates are equipped with phones. Our doors are equipped with phones. Our security vestibules are critical as far as keeping any type of intruder or somebody that we don't want on our campus out of our buildings. That's another countermeasure. And we really do focus on countermeasures, and we take them very seriously, and we keep building on one, adding another one, and adding the layers of security for our campuses. We are in the midst of putting ballistic film on our windows, meeting the TEA requirements and legislative requirements under House Bill 3. Of course, every school's doing that, so we just got to be patient. We have the film, and we're currently waiting for it to be installed. The one point that I wanted to mention, and I'm going to talk about doors here in just a second, but one thing that I wanted to mention on CAD is we were able to get maps of our campuses, and with our unique door numbering system, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, we digitized those maps, we sent them over to the county, and we uploaded them so all first responders have access to those maps when they're responding. It gives them a windshield assessment much sooner than they would have normally had, and it allows them to plan their approach or ingress into any situation that we have on our campus. So both fire and law enforcement have all of our maps and have all our door numbers, which I'm going to talk about here in a second, on their way to an emergency. So what we did was, our doors are numbered, so you see the number 13. It doesn't really say a lot. We don't know where that is. We don't know what campus it's on. And we don't know much else about that door other than it's door number 13. Next slide, and we'll go on. So what we did was we worked together as a leadership team to come up with a unique door numbering system, and we basically followed a call sign system. So each one of our doors on our campus has a unique identifier, and on the slide you can see the campus initial, building if applicable, the door number, and then the cardinal point. So if next slide. So we'll go. So now you take a look at that 13 and you see it's PA2E. So P stands for primary, A is the building, 2 is the door, and E is the side of the building that it's on. So if you're a first responder and you look at your map and a teacher or a substitute or administrator is at PA2E with a student who needs emergency services, that emergency response is going to be much quicker, much more effective, and less time will be wasted getting to the campus now that our first responders have access to this information. Next slide.
And we have the real world example where last week we
That's
sent an ambulance to a specific door versus just the front or the 911 address. They arrived at the door, walked in the door, and then I think we had a student was having a seizure, and they were within 10 feet of the student. So it works. Having it in the CAD works, and this was an unbelievable step forward for our program. So if you haven't, I know that everybody's going to have to eventually number their doors, but if you haven't done it, I would suggest using this system or something like it to give each door its own life. And I'll tell you something else too. When you're going to repair a broken door, it's much easier to give them a door number than it is to say the third door from the left on the back side of the building between the gym and the blah, blah, blah. I'm just telling you that your mechanic, your door mechanics will be able to arrive on the scene, and then they have much greater accountability for repairing that specific door. So when you're doing your door sweeps and something's wrong, then you can actually name the door and let them know what the issue is. So thanks, Tim, for coming up with that and for spearheading that process. Dr. G, you want to talk about our hallway colors?
Yeah, very briefly. So similarly to how we numbered the doors, we also color coded the hallways. So again, in case of an emergency, we would be able, or emergency services would be able to identify areas of schools more specifically based on the colors that we assigned. So these colors are on the maps that our emergency responders, first responders have, but also when you approach the building, you will be able to see the colors of the hallways that you're about to enter, and the one that intersects right at the right on the door, along with the door number. And when you go in, you will see those color dots, and they indicate the color of each hallway. So it's just another layer of being able to identify your location for the first responders that might not be super familiar with the exact layout of the campus, especially in the high stress situation. And when we presented this to our first responders, they really loved the idea. You can go to the next one. This is just another thing that we went above and beyond on something. So each classroom, we also put a door number or classroom number on the door, so that if it's a substitute teacher that is not familiar with the door number, they could call the emergency services in an emergency situation without having to stick their head out in the hallway to look at the classroom number. And also the color of the hallway is green, so she would be able to say, hey, I'm in the green hallway in room so and so. Again, to shorten the response time and to identify where people are located at a specific time.
Yeah, and when you start training, for those of you that have a Guardian program, when you start training and you start thinking tactically about how you would approach a situation in a worst case scenario, when Tim and I went out to these hallways, that's how we thought about the coloring and tactically moving from one hallway to the other, hearing something on the radio that says green hall, red hall, gold hall, to knowing what hallway you were in and how to get to the next one. So we can explain more about that if anybody is interested in that. So Chris, if you want to talk a little bit deeper about our threat assessment, we think this is an unbelievable advantage that we have in keeping our kids safe.
Yes, sir. So our threat assessment program here within the district is it's always evolving, and we've been ahead of the game, in my opinion, in a lot of areas, and this is one of them. I'll just go bullet by bullet real quick. So House Bill 3 stated that you shall develop a plan that you're going to address these, and you're going to have a team that is going to all be trained the same way and address them throughout your district. Now, to me, the most important part is that second bullet point is making sure that you select your team members and they are the right people for the job, because there's so many different moving pieces to this thing. And we've done an exceptional job at that, in my opinion, because throughout our district, and our district is not side by side, we're spread out throughout our small community. But what we've been able to do is improve our communication and get all of our active team members engaged, regardless of the campus that they're on. We also have a requirement of training, and there's some prerequisites that TEA puts out, and there's a basic course, but we've actually gone and require additional training on top of that for all of our team members. And another thing that I think that makes us so effective is, regardless of your position throughout the district, if you're a member of the team, you're a member of the team, and we are able to cut up and have great meetings to continue to improve our team. throughout the year, last year, we really noticed that our consistency throughout the district improved, and we got a lot of our forms and basically our base framework together, which really catapulted us ahead of a lot of other people, in my opinion. Our accurate reporting, we are on top of that. We have it's a multi-layered process that we go through. But like I said, the training and the consistency really has just helped us to catch a lot of things that would have gone unnoticed. We also have we're in compliance with the notification requirements and the transfer of records. We established a process last year that enabled us to not miss a beat whenever this came about. And we'd be open to discuss that process if anybody wants any further detail on that. And we are, like I said, in addition to that process, we already had an established procedure to maintain the records. So this didn't blindside us by any means. Next slide.
All right, thanks, Chris. On the one of the other things that we have on the behavioral side is we've created an umbrella, see something, say something. And the card that you see in front of us is an actual physical card that we produced. We produced it physically and digitally. We wanted to make sure that our parents and our community had multiple ways to alert us if there was a problem. So we obviously have the required anonymous alerts. Everyone has to have an anonymous alert system in Texas. This is not new or groundbreaking. You're all familiar with it. We've also instituted, if you're not familiar with it, the iWatch Texas program. And the reason that iWatch is so good is because it falls under the umbrella of the Department of Public Safety. So any kind of threat or issue that gets reported to iWatch gets filtered through their system, and they can connect the dots that you may not be able to connect alone in your town. So if anything ever gets put out there with Lumberton ISD or any other ISD, then iWatch can filter it through and they'll send it to local law enforcement. We've also created a school safety report card. It allows our parents at any time to report anything unsafe on our campus. If a gate is broken, if a fence slat is missing, if one of the AI phones is malfunctioning, they can report that to us and we get immediate results and immediate notification. And then we've also worked with our local county Crime Stoppers to institute a program across the district. And man, we introduced it last year and we got some amazing results from it really quickly. So we think we have a real comprehensive program there. We just didn't want to miss anything. We wanted to fill in all the cracks. So I urge anybody that's out there to look into those systems and just to make sure that you have something that your parents have easy access to. You see, we have the QR codes there. So sitting in the drive-through line, if you notice that a fence is broken or there's a hole under the fence, take a picture of it, scan it to the school safety report card, and we get immediate notice on that. Chris, you want to talk about this relationship we have with law enforcement? And I will tell you, of all the things we talk about, if you only take one thing away from today's meeting, establishing that relationship with law enforcement is probably the most important thing that you'll do.
Thank you, Dr. Tipton. Well, I'll start with, I didn't say this in the beginning, but I'm also a peace officer here in the state. I've been one since 2009. So I've worked on both sides of the fence, and understanding this slide is I'm going to echo what Dr. Tipton said, probably the most important for you superintendents out there. We have regular established meetings with our law enforcement here locally, but we invite all surrounding areas as well. We have safety and security meeting. We have a safety and security town hall meeting. And then we have, like I mentioned before, our quarterly meetings with our local law enforcement and first responders. Our training is one of the things that makes us as strong as we are is we not only train our staff, but we're training with our local law enforcement. And from the police officer's perspective of that was unheard of up until recently. And I can personally tell you how valuable that is. Some of the trainings that we've already mentioned is, our guardians go through alert, but on top of that, we do stop the bleed training. And we offer this throughout our district to all of our employees. The craze training, we briefly touched on that earlier, but again, that's a civilian response to an active shooter event. And our goal is to continue to grow that audience and offer it to as many people as we possibly can. Dr. G touched earlier on our Raptor alert system. And again, being on the other side, having the CAD systems and the 911 dispatchers and the ability to be dispatched to call is one thing, but being in tune and in line with the people that are actively there at the time of, a crisis is just amazing. And as I said earlier, it was an average of 80 seconds that we beat the 911 dispatch calls. So that's district wide. All of our staff, all of our employees have that ability on their phone, and it also immediately notifies our first responders that train with us on a regular basis. We have the Emergency Operations Center located right in between our middle school and high school campuses, and this is our Performing Arts Center. And we coordinate efforts with all first responders in the area, not just Hardin County. And our radios, as Director Lane touched on, all campus administration have assigned radios, so they are able to communicate. And all are monitored by district personnel who have the 800s, and they have the capability to communicate directly with law enforcement. So if needed, we would be able to reach out and make that contact.
All right, Dr. G, would you want to talk a little bit about our websites? And I think I'm gonna, while you do, I'm gonna share my screen here and show what those look like.
So this is just a screenshot of our website with the information that we just discussed. So the see something, say something umbrella, all that information and all the links are here on this page as well, easily accessible. So you don't have to have a QR code or look for the card. You can just go to the district website, and with one click, you can find this page and select the report that you would like to submit. Also, a couple of years ago, we realized that just like we have to train our staff on the stand and response protocol, we also have to train our public and our parents so they wouldn't panic. So that's why we have included each response type on the website, so that the parent can go on the website when they hear from their parent, from their student that text them, "Oh, we own secure." Well, what does secure mean? So they can easily go on there and find what that response is, and the reason that we might have it. So that's basically it. So as far as the safety connections, so with all these physical and behavioral measures that we have in place, at some point, of course, we housed everything in Google shared Google folder. At some point, it started getting more and more difficult to get to the documents that we needed in a timely fashion. Like, where do we put that? It will be a folder upon a folder upon a folder. So we came up with the idea, let's keep everything organized on a Google site. So we created this Google site, Safety Connections. The access to it only is granted to the members of the district administrators, campus level administrators, and safety and security, the threat assessment teams. So it allows us to get to the documents that we need, to the live documents linked to Google Drive the moment we need it. It's all, we have it bookmarked in our browsers, and we have a very easy access, and it's being utilized every day. So we have door sweep, so we can easily see which campus is doing their door sweep or not doing their door sweep, the threat assessment forms, the bullying tracker. I don't know, Dr. Tipton, if you're able to go in there, just click through it and demonstrate that or not. But this is just for our internal capability of being able to access what we need when we need it, without having to click through a bunch of folders, which, like I said, with a comprehensive program as it is that what we have now, it is pretty challenging to get to the things that we needed. But with this, it has helped us stay organized.
Yeah, so I will tell you what's going to happen is this, and we predicted this last year, and this is kind of what we began working towards. As this thing gets bigger and bigger with House Bill 3, and we know that the things are going to continue to come down, a district is going to have to figure out a way to hammer out all the things that we have. A group of us sat down yesterday and started thinking, what would it be like if we actually had to get on a whiteboard and start writing down all the countermeasures and what our program looks like? And we thought it will probably take 8 or 10 hours just for us to dump our brains and get it all out there on paper. But I think it's an exercise that we're going to have to undertake. So we're getting down close to the end. I'm going to throw this one in for free. I know the other part's been really expensive, but this one's going to be for free because this is an extra for the superintendents out there. I want to tell you, on June 10th of this year, Lumberton ISD was hit with a cyber attack. And if you've never been through one, I hope that you never have to go through one. And myself and Dr. G have actually put a proposal to present at TASA Midwinter over cybersecurity, and we hope that it gets accepted because we feel like we really have a lot to offer. We learned an unbelievable amount in a very short amount of time over cybersecurity, and again, with so much that we feel like we need to give this away and offer it out to other superintendents. But if you don't get to go to that, or if that thing doesn't make, I'm just going to give you 5 quick cyber tips because this is school safety and security. If you don't have network protection, talk to your IT director and make sure that your network is protected 24/7. There's multiple products out there that you can use. I think that we're using something called CrowdStrike. Just make sure that it's protected 24/7. Make sure that each individual machine has malware protection on it, virus protection. Ensure that your employees are fully trained on phishing emails and how to not click on suspicious links, and to not believe that there's an Arab prince that's going to give your district $5 million if you only click on this link. Believe me, stranger things have happened. Make sure that, and again, if superintendents, if you don't know, TEA and your region centers run monthly statewide meetings for tech directors, and they go over the very latest threats that are out there in the cyber world. And so your tech director may be attending those, but they may not be. Just make sure that they are attending those because they're huge. And then just ensure that you have all those protocols in place to protect your system. And me as a superintendent, I don't know all the ins and outs of the network world and the computer world. All I know is, as a leader, and I promise you, my people are the people that are on here with me are gonna attest, you do not want to be shut down. We were shut down for 3 weeks. And when I say shut down, guys, I'm talking about shut down. We had no phones, email, no copiers, the gates didn't work, the cameras didn't work, no internet. We were just lucky that we had a back door to be able to run payroll and to be able to do accounts payable. But we were literally shut down for 3 weeks. And thank God it was in the summer when we only had, a little bit of summer school and some extended year services going on. But if this would have occurred during the school year, it would have been really, really bad. So we're actually, as we speak, we are putting together a coup plan for what we would do if we ever got attacked during the school year and how we would function. So I'm going to show this. And, I know everybody gives out their contact information, but I really want to truly tell you that these are our cell phones. These are our emails. And we mean it when we say, please reach out to us. We will give you anything we have. We will consult on the phone. We are all about kids. We're all about people and keeping kids safe and keeping teachers safe. It's a mission that we're all extremely driven for. We're all passionate about it. We've built an unbelievable system here at Lumberton. We think we can replicate the model that we have. And we, if we ever needed to help another district, again, everything we have is free. We'll give you all the forms. We'll give you anything that you want or need if it's going to help you keep kids safe. So if any of my team don't have anything else, we would open it up. I don't know if there's any questions in the chat, or if our hosts want to jump in and ask us any questions, we'll be happy to take them.
Well, I first want to say thank you. I think if I need to move my kids somewhere, I'm coming to Lumberton. I have a grandbaby on the way, and I think the intentionality and the just I'm just impressed, like almost speechless. I think school safety is something that it was something I have older kids now. It was something that we just didn't think of 28 years ago. We just thought our schools were safe, and there was this place of just this space and place of just everything's going to be okay when I drop them off at school, and that's not the case anymore. So I'm very thankful for this. Brene Brown says clear is kind. Y'all have provided such a clear pathway and for other districts to see how to do this. So I'm super impressed. I also want to thank you for being vulnerable to let us know that happened at your district. I think people don't share when things like this happen, and this is why we all keep things keep happening to us, because we don't share it. And so thank you for giving us a little touch into what happened, and then like a plan with the cyber attack. I think that's going to be one of the things that it's hard to wrap our minds around that space. So I just want to thank you. Before we get to questions, I just want to make sure I thank you, Dr. Tipton, Dr. G, Tim, Chris, and the last person on here. What was his name?
Yeah.
The last person you
My name
added.
is Matthew McLeod.
Matthew
Oh
McLeod.
yeah. Oh no, I'm sorry. I forgot Matthew. Listen, Matthew is going to be an unbelievable member of our team. Today is Matthew's first day. Matthew is a registered nurse, and he is going to work with us for a year under a grant program, and he's going to be the medical side to our safety, security, and crisis team. So we're just so happy he's here, and we wanted to throw him in and let him get just a flavor of what our school safety and security is before Tim and Chris start dragging him around to all the campuses today. So
Right.
So you caught him on the front side of his
I love it.
his school journey. So
Well, I'm just impressed. I think that's just impressive that you brought him into this right away, and that all the work that you're doing with that. I think you said something about how it saved like 8 seconds, and 8 seconds is a lifetime. Like as a mom with little kids and rushing kids to the ER, like every second counts. So I'm just so thoroughly impressed. So I want to make sure I thank you all.
appreciate
and
it.
Make sure I catch.
Yep. We'd be happy to take any questions if anybody had them, and if not, like I say, call us anytime. These are our cells. We'll do anything for anybody.
I think we do have some questions.
Okay.
We have some coming in here. All right. Okay. About the PowerPoint. Will this PowerPoint be available? Superintendent Tipton, are you comfortable sharing that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can send it to you guys, and you can share it out. The one thing that, like Dr. G said, the one piece of it is that our internal, we have that internal only documents. Obviously, even if we linked it, it wouldn't work. Only a few people have access to that, but just
That
seeing
makes
the
sense.
screenshots and seeing what we do, if anybody were to want information about how to create that, we can certainly help you do that. But yes, we'll send it to you, and I'll make it available as soon as it's over.
Great. Yeah, just curious. Just curious what district you're with. So I just saw. I see the question here, but it's coming up anonymous attendee. Just curious.
And they can message us independently, let us know, so we can make sure we get it directly to them. Something else I want to touch on while we're looking for other questions, the coloring of the hallways. I think that's just brilliant. I mean, just think of like when you're not in a crisis situation and you're traveling in the airport, and you're like happy to go on your trip, and you're like, where do I go? Do I go down B122 or is it C1 through 7? And just making that color piece just as simple as we can make this for everyone. And even when you were mentioning getting a door replaced, like all this stuff matters, and to make it simple and understandable for everyone. And then when you're in a crisis situation, how much it's just going to help. So I'm really just thankful and so excited for what y'all are doing.
Well, I'll tell you, Kareem, one of the things that when you go, this is why it's so helpful that the superintendent, him or herself, participate in the
Mhm.
training with
Mhm.
others, because you understand in a crisis situation, you literally everything from the back blacks out and it all goes around, and it's like you have on
Mhm.
total goggles that are tunnel vision, and you don't hear things, you don't feel things, and you don't see them normally. So to me, being in a crisis, even in our schools, if you told me to go to the B hall room 207, it would take me a minute to figure out where I was. But if I'm looking up at the wall and I'm a first responder and I have to go to a real emergency, green and red are pretty easy. In fact, we actually have one campus where we have a principal who's colorblind, and so we're going to add the letters down below the colors for anybody that's colorblind. So we've really thought of just so many ins and outs.
Mhm.
The other question that came up earlier was how you communicate with law enforcement, and there was something about an 800 hertz. Could we expand on that?
Yeah. So we actually we purchased law enforcement grade radios. They're Motorola APX 8000s.
Dual
And
band,
what it's
dual band
called is
radios,
we have an 800 channel, and the only way to get an 800 channel is you have to go through your county emergency management person. Every county has one, and they were able to set us up. There's a few hoops that they have to jump through, but if they're willing to work with you, then you actually have your own dedicated 800 channel. We have two of them. One of them that we have is we can hear all of the Hardin County dispatch. So we hear all the emergency dispatches throughout the day, from the barking dog complaint to the broken down car. But why that's so valuable is because we become trained to know what's happening near our schools. So if we hear something that, like, hey, there's a foot chase in the neighborhood around Elm Street, we know that that's a half a block from the middle school. So the team is on the way. And we have these on with us all the time. And with 3 turns of, I don't know if you can see, but I can turn this knob 3 times. And if I press the button, I'm talking directly to my police chief and to every unit that he has out in our district instantly. So you talk about, wearing the radio and seeing something happening on a campus and popping 3 knobs and then being able to talk directly to your police chief and every officer. It's just invaluable. It beats calling 911 by about 80 seconds from our estimation.
I'm glad you said 80 seconds. I was thinking 80 seconds. Super impressive. Earlier you said something that I want to make sure our listeners hear and really understand: the importance of everyone being on board with this plan. At some point, all of our personal decisions and all of our ideologies from the past have to align with what's best for kids in our district. So I also want to commend you for that. That's groundbreaking. I mean, actually, y'all can probably lead sessions just on getting to team trust and team focus on kids, focus on something, and literally set other things aside. What's best for your district. So
it's all culture. It's all culture, and it's all trust, and it's giving people the trust to listen. We've put the power in every single individual. They can shut our schools down with the press of a button. That's trust. When the custodian, when the bus driver, when the cafeteria worker, the principal, or the superintendent can press a button and lock a school down from something that they see coming down the hall or they see crossing a fence, that's trust. And I tell you, people have really taken a hold of that trust, and they use it wisely. And like I say, it's a culture thing that we've built, and we're super happy that we've done it for our kids and community, and again, happy to share whatever we can. I see we're kind of approaching our cutoff time, Gary. So
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Superintendent Tipton, and your team for being on in the conference today, speaking at the conference. And so I almost said podcasts. And for those of y'all listening, we do have the Educational Leadership Podcast. We have over 60 episodes, so shameless plug there for that. But thank you all so much. You have Superintendent Tipton's contact information along with his team's contact information. There's so many tactics and strategies that we covered today around safety, and obviously it's a very important issue, a very relevant issue right now. So please reach out to them, brainstorm ideas, apply the things that they shared today. And thank you all again for speaking today at the conference.
Yeah, you bet, guys. Thank you all for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.